Well, JETS might stand for stink, 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 but they're going to play a football game against the Colts, and a winner and a loser will happen. And we're going to talk about it on today's Kevin's Corner. Obviously, that will be kind of the back half. Lots of Twitter questions that were sent in on Monday that I want to get to. Chris Presley, Kevin Bowen back in studio. Obviously, injuries, big part of Week 3 here in the NFL, and especially for the Colts, so we will hit on that. What else am I missing, man?
Yeah, I mean, the injuries are glaring. I mean, when you have Schefter and Rappaport and John Clayton and all these guys saying, I've never seen anything like this.
I know. And a lot of big names, too.
Yeah.
It sucks, man. I hate talking about injuries. I know we always say it's a league of attrition, and that's kind of what the NFL is, but boy, I don't remember a week like what we've just seen. And obviously the Colts, I had a buddy of mine text me earlier this week, and he was like, you find it ironic that the Colts have had 3 seemingly season-ending injuries, and those were the 3 positions that they drafted the first 3 picks back in April.
Yeah.
And you've had Parris Campbell, you took a wideout.
True.
You had Marlon Mack, you took a running back, and then Malik with the safety as well. And it is kind of funny. I don't know if funny is the right word, but ironic, coincidental, whatever you want to call it. And last year, Chris Ballard was very apologetic or just disappointed in himself that he didn't feel like he gave this coaching staff enough depth. And so now it's like, holy, you're here at Week 3 and depth in some big areas, although you've avoided O-line and D-line, which is good so far. But still, more than ever in this 2020, we're going to see kind of a survival mode for really every NFL team, and in a small way, not even a small way, the Colts and Jets are probably 2 of the teams that are atop that list.
How about the news today about Tyrod Taylor?
Oh, my God.
Punctured lung.
I had a friend of mine who bet on shout out to Holton Whitaker moving to Atlanta. He bet on Justin Herbert to win NFL Rookie of the Year, and I'm like, did you pay off the Chargers team doctor? I mean, that is like, wow.
Yeah.
That is an accidental puncturing of the lung.
I was listening to that Sunday on the way up to, like I said, my mother's birthday. We had family dinner, and the announcers were like, well, Tyrod Taylor was out here, but he went back in. Maybe it's nerves, but this guy shouldn't have nerves. I don't know what it is.
Man, that and then Rock Yassin and that thing, it's just you rarely see, guys get to the stadium and neither of them got hurt in warm-up. It's not like they went out on the field and pulled something or something like that. So, wow, wild. I mean, if I had the Chargers, I know it's probably not the right thing to do. I'd just hand it to Herbert and move on. But, yeah, wild. Gotta love the NFL. Never a shortage of entertainment.
Well, we heard, obviously, the Achilles tear for Hooker. The Campbell one's kind of up in the air. Doesn't sound good, but they didn't necessarily rule him out. But who's going to fill that void? We talked about how dynamic of a player he is and just how unique he is. So who slides in there?
Yeah, I think this is the most critical loss of the 3 when you talk about Mack, Hooker, and Campbell. And I know I got some pushback on that. People are like, wait, the 1,000-yard rusher? Wait, the guy that started for 4 years for this team. But with Campbell, Chris, you just hit it there. He is the most unique weapon on this offense. He stands out really more than anybody in just how his skill set is different than other guys. Is he the best player on this offense? No. But what I talked about all offseason long is he can push the ceiling for this unit higher than really anybody else. And look at Week 1. Plays the most snaps of any wideout. Targeted the most of any wideout. I mean, even look at Sunday. You run it, a billion times to Jonathan Taylor on that first drive, but you sprinkled in the jet sweep to Parris Campbell because he's a guy that can strike fear in a defense laterally, pre-snap, and that can complement, just the straight-ahead run game so well. So we've talked about yards after catch. I've tried to stress with Campbell, it's such a low-risk touch with high potential in his play. The jet sweep, the little screen, a little dump pass, he can offer you so much there. And I know a lot of people have said, well, just throw Hilton into the slot, throw Hines into the slot. It's just a lot easier said than done. To me, it's a lot easier to say, here you go, Jonathan Taylor, go be a running back like Marlon Mack was. That, to me, is not much of a drop-off. Now, again, where you're hurt is depth. You are hurt in these areas with losing Mack, Hooker, and Campbell, or Hooker, I should say. But where you really lose Campbell, I think, is mostly from a game plan, dynamic playmaker standpoint, and that you trust Frank Reich to scheme it up a bit, but still, man, it's just a big loss, really big loss for a guy that I think separates himself really from a lot of the wideouts. You know, people have talked about, okay, and Frank rattled off many names: Pascal, Fountain, Hines, Hilton, all those names. I guess when you start with Hilton, most consistent slot producer of anybody. I mean, the deep ball that he dropped on Sunday was out of the slot. So, like, he can line up in the slot, but now what you're doing is, okay, now you're taking him away from being an outside guy. And, yes, you have Michael Pittman, you have Zach Pascal, but they haven't proven themselves, you know, on an NFL stage like T.Y. Hilton has as an outside wideout. So you have that factor. You know, when you throw Hines in there, he's got history, certainly, and was a college wideout, but not every game's going to be like Sunday where Jonathan Taylor's toting it for 25 times a game, 26 times a game. You still need Hines to be a running back and catch balls out of the backfield and do other stuff in there as well. We saw Marcus Johnson, you know, get signed to the practice squad. You know, maybe he's healthy now and he gets bumped up later in the week. It's just Hilton's got to show up. I think that's the biggest thing with this wideout group is you need T.Y. Hilton to become an unquestioned Pro Bowl wideout for you this season because, you know, Pascal, really nice player. Michael Pittman, I think, is showing flashes, but it would be naive for us to expect them to take on this heavy week in, week out burden of 5-catch, 80-yard guy sort of output. That just would be ludicrous to expect that from either of those two. And again, not every week you're going to face a weak defensive line like Minnesota's and be able to just say ground and pound, ground and pound, ground and pound. Like, that's not going to be the blueprint every week. You're going to have to play complementary football, and you're going to have to find skill guys that can just make a drive, all of a sudden be 3 for 75 and get into the end zone, and not these, again, very grinding drives. I know we talk about Campbell a lot, too, of, you know, he's able to, take, again, these low-risk touches and turn them into high, big plays. I also feel like he creates separation in such short areas of the field. I think of third down, and I think of red zone.
Yep.
And that's what's hurting this team right now. So you're taking away a weapon there for you. So this is a massive loss. PCL, MCL, and I'm just talking here in 2020, Chris. I'm not even projecting forward. We kind of talked about that on Monday's pod. But I think it'll be a by-committee approach. I think it'll be some Hines. I think it'll be some Hilton. Those are the two guys I'd look to first. But still, I don't think it's all of a sudden Marlon Mack gets hurt. Here you go, Jonathan Taylor. Here's 26 carries. Or even on Sunday, Malik Hooker gets hurt, and Julian Blackmon's playing more than half the defensive snaps. I don't even think it's that seamless. I think this is a much more of a putting pieces of the puzzle together, personnel-wise, and then also schematically. Like Frank Reich, more has got to be out of you now to try and dial up some of the, just innate ability that Parris Campbell brings to the field.
Does the by-committee approach then translate over to the defensive side of the ball and how we are going to replace Hooker? Or is Blackmon, do you think he's solidified in that starting role?
You know, my gut kind of thinks it'll be Blackmon. I know it's quite the jump. Julian Blackmon, and we're taping this just before the injury report comes out on Wednesday. He didn't even participate fully in any practice last week, and he played over half the defensive snaps. So part of me is like, Hooker routinely played. I don't think he did in week one now that I think about it, but he routinely played 100% of the snaps last season. So I'm not sure if Blackmon, you just throw that on him right away. But, again, played over 50% last week. I think he could handle 70, 80%. And I just look at it as the future is now. Julian Blackmon, Kari Willis, we talked about them 2021 week one.
Yep.
It's 2020 week 3. And where I guess you miss Hooker, and I know I said earlier that I think Campbell's the biggest loss of the 3. I don't want people to run with that and say, I'm not acting like Hooker is a loss, or I'm not acting like Marlon Mack is a loss. They are all big losses. Where I think you hurt with Hooker is this, Chris. There's no skill set like him of just this rangy center field, don't allow big plays. Like Odom isn't really like that. Tavon Wilson's not really like that. And Julian Blackmon isn't really like that. They can do other things, and Blackmon offers, I think, some other stuff that Hooker doesn't offer. But still, when we're talking deep center field, this defense cannot give up big plays. Hooker largely achieves that for you and offers you that. So now that is missing, and I think I touched on this a little bit on Monday. But now you get into sub packages, and you get into the creativity you can have in the secondary, and now are you a little bit more relegated into what you can do, a little bit more of, shit, man, if we had Hooker back there, we could put Blackmon in the slot here, and he could match up against, whatever, Travis Kelce if you're playing the Chiefs in the playoffs, or something like that. I think that's where it really stings, is just how different, multiple, whatever you want to say, you can be defensively. I go back to the ACL with Hooker in 2017. He tore that in October of that rookie season, came back, and by week 2 of that next season, he was playing 100% of the snaps. So I'm trying to project that to Blackmon.
Yeah.
Okay, Blackmon tore it in December. That's 2 months. It's like a month and a half later, I guess, if you look at the calendar. By week 3, could he be playing? In a way, it's kind of his rookie season. I mean, I guess Hooker was able to get 7 games in as a rookie, but still, he was kind of a pseudo-rookie into that second year. So I try and project that a little bit. I don't know. It's what they liked about Blackmon coming out was his 3-down ability, his versatility, and that he found the football. When I watched him Sunday, went back and watched the tape, you just see an instinctual aspect to his game that is hard to teach. Man, you really like that. You really, really like that. Obviously, he got his hands on the football on Sunday. But he's a guy, and I think Khari Willis brings this a little bit too, of you just trust him. There's a trust factor that you really like. And he's played corner. He's played safety. He's seen, the game from multiple different areas on that defense. Right. And so you definitely like that as well. So, matchup-driven league, here you go. It's that's what you're going to miss. It's the versatility on game days are so important, and the matchups are so important. I think that's where you'll miss Hooker, because now it might restrict, again, Blackmon to being more of that free safety type of guy. But I think you throw it on his plate and see what happens. George Odom, Tavon Wilson, 2 guys that certainly have experience in this league. Wilson started 14 games for the Lions last year. They brought up Parris Campbell. We talked about him on Monday from the practice squad. He's played in the NFL. So there is some depth there. It's not like crystal clear slam dunk depth, but it's better depth there than I think you have at some other spots on this team. So I say throw it on Blackmon and, see what happens, man.
You hope he kind of projects to be a safety version of Kenny Moore, just kind of all over the place.
Yeah, and, I think in an ideal world, you would move Blackmon around a little bit more than you moved Hooker. I mean, I know you tried with Hooker closer to the line of scrimmage and things like that. And, who knows? Maybe eventually you'll be able to get there. We haven't really seen the Colts go full dime package yet this season. The 6 DBs, 4 defensive linemen, and just Leonard. It's I felt like Okereke has always been on the field there. They haven't gone full. And do you trust enough DBs? I guess that is something I'm curious about, because, again, does it impact you playing the Jets? No. Hell no. But, when you're facing a Kansas City or you're facing a Green Bay like you do in November, your ability to go deeper into that nickel dime group, I think, will be something that is just a fair question to be asked. So, man, we talked about at the start of the year. You're going to have to count on your rookies. I never thought you'd be counting on Julian Blackmon this much this early. But if I'm Frank Reich, I kind of throw that on his plate. I don't know. Maybe you sprinkle in Odom and Wilson a little bit more. But, he was on a pitch count, they said, to a degree on Sunday, Blackmon. So maybe it won't be 100%, right now. But I still think he needs to play the majority of snaps starting alongside Kari Willis.
Cool. All right. Well, like you said, we have a lot of Twitter questions. We want to jump on into those.
Yeah.
We're going to start with Tanner. Tanner wants to know, do you expect to see the Colts try and stretch down the field with Pittman anytime soon? Feels like what he saw from him against Minnesota, but do you think he deserves even more shots down the field, or do you think he will be used as more of a possession guy?
I think more as a possession guy. That's kind of my first thought there. They like the X wide out role. I mean, think about his catches so far in the league. It's kind of been, slants, just more of, you create the 6'4" frame, and I'm going to throw it to you. Having said that, I think you need to stretch the field. I mean, that is like an absolute must. Maybe some jump balls in the red zone, just try to spark a little bit there as well. Philip Rivers was asked a question today about T.Y. Hilton and the drops. And Rivers, was like, he kind of went off on a tangent, and he's like, don't take this out of context. But he said, what really hurts a quarterback is like when I can't trust you where you're going to be. If you run the wrong route, like drops are drops. But if you're in the right place and I know the ball's either going to go to you or it's going to be, potentially dropped, I feel better about that. But if I can't trust you that you're going to be where you're supposed to be, all of a sudden I'm throwing a ball.
That's fair.
Maybe to the other team. And I feel like we've had that a couple times with Pittman, of just a couple of miscommunication things with him. Again, that's me saying that. But still, he had more of that at USC where he kind of jump balled some people. So I don't think it'll be a huge part of this game plan, whatever you want to call it. But with losing Campbell and you're trying to get a little bit more vertical, and especially if you're going to start to show your hand a little bit and say, hey, when Pittman and Pascal on the field, they're going to block a lot, that's a perfect time to say, whoop, play action, over the top, try and hit a big play.
This one comes from Zach. Is no one else worried about this offense? The red zone struggles mixed in with the we need to keep Rivers out of the negative game scripts late is making him nervous. This is the NFL. If you can't score TDs, you're going to be negative game scripts. Is it possible that the lack of tight end health is contributing, or is Reich's favorite misdirection seems to be the is he blocking or running a route?
Zach, I trust Frank Reich with red zone and third down. It's always been a staple of his offenses that have done really well, and I'm not going to freak out too much about 2 games. Where I do have some concern, though, is you worry about the skill group and some of these injuries, and Zach brings up the tight end position. We always hear the phrase, Chris, players not plays, when you kind of get closer to the red zone, end zone, whatever you want to call it. So that's where I'm kind of a little bit concerned. But again, I like Frank Reich's creative mind. I think he'll be able to kind of, somewhat over. Is it going to be a top 5 red zone team or a top 10? Maybe not, but it's got to be better than 31st in the NFL, I think is where you're at right now. Also, they've had a couple penalties in the red zone as well, which, that just absolutely kills you because the field's already shrunk. And now, instead of really stretching it, you can't. And if you get behind the chains at all, that's something I know Frank has not been pleased with. Of you got to stay in phase much more in the red zone. So, no one else worried about the offense. That to me involves the entire field. I'm not. I mean, we'll get into some of these Rivers numbers. Philip Rivers has had some very impressive numbers early in the season. We have not talked about it enough, and we will today. And the O-line, okay, decent job running the football. Not great yards per carry, but not bad. And considering the skill group that you've missed so far, I think you're moving it pretty well. So I'm not worried about the offense. Again, that's all-encompassing. Red zone, third down, you can definitely be better. But Frank Reich's history and Philip Rivers' history as well, I think would indicate that they will be better.
All right, we got a Mo Alley Cox question. Again, we have a lot of Mo Alley Cox questions on this edition of the podcast.
No shocker there.
Colts fan for life. With Mo Alley Cox and Antonio Gates having similar stature and basketball backgrounds, not saying Mo is quite Gates, but do you see the level of chemistry building with Rivers? If not, who do you see in that primary role for the receivers?
Well, we know Philip loves the big targets, and Mo Alley is probably bigger than Antonio Gates, honestly. First, Frank Reich was asked, I think, a very deserved question today about just, the obvious basketball background when you compare Gates to Alley Cox, or excuse me, Alley Cox to Gates in any way. And Reich really downplayed it of the body types are different, the sort of routes that they run are different. Just different players, and then obviously threw in the caveat of, okay, we're comparing a Hall of Famer to a guy that has had one notable game in the NFL, so let's obviously pump the brakes there. But I think just because they play the same position and they're former college basketball players doesn't really mean they're the same athlete playing tight end. Allie Cox, I think, is a little longer. Gates a stouter, would you call him that? I don't know, maybe a little stout. I mean, he's not Jimmy Graham, Tony Gonzalez build. I think he's a little shorter, a little wider.
He's a little wider.
But obviously still extremely effective. But I think it's a fair question of, who do you see developing that chemistry with Rivers? Rivers has really spread the ball around a lot. I mean, he's trusted Michael Pittman in some big situations while still having some miscommunication issues. So I don't think he shied away from anybody. I am eager to watch when Trey Burton gets back. What does that look like? Because I do think those two built a nice chemistry during camp.
Yeah. This question comes from Sim. Are you concerned at all by Michael Pittman's social media activity during camp and on the eve of big games like we had against the Vikings? This is considering he didn't have a good camp. Are they a distraction?
Boy, am I missing something? I don't. I know Michael Pittman has like a YouTube channel, but
his YouTube is fairly large. It has I was watching one of his videos yesterday as he took the viewers through game day of the Vikings,
and it's really cool what he does. Great behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah. Over 250,000 followers. That's what his I think she's girlfriend or fiance. She edits the videos. He records them.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned yet.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm judging more off Twitter and Instagram. I would say he is one of the least active players compared to a lot of other guys on this football team. I don't need to be Michael Pittman's father here or his mom here and say get off social media. I'll say this: just welcome to 2020 and athletes. This is the norm. It's a miracle that we don't have, guys doing TikTok touchdown dances or whatnot. I mean, seriously,
yeah.
It's just this is the new norm of what you're going to expect from this new generation. And, I actually think Michael Pittman is a great football character. I think he can compartmentalize pretty well, and I don't think it's a distraction or things like that. He had a great quote earlier this week about he wants to become a great run blocker. And, the question was kind of like, why? And he's like, I hear my dad talk about Keyshawn Johnson and just rave about him as one of his favorite teammates because he was such a good blocker for him, and I want Jonathan Taylor to talk about me in that way. Again, I just because he's firing off a YouTube video or whatever, he's taking a selfie video on the field before the game, I think Michael Pittman, more than any player, probably gets what it means to be an NFL player and the type of work ethic that goes into that. So, I don't, a couple mental lapses here and there, I'm not going to chalk it up to, he's filming himself 30 seconds on the field before a game.
Something that didn't really surprise me, but that Pittman said in that video, and then Jonathan Taylor also said today in an interview with Dan Dockich, as they both stressed the recovery after these games are a little bit different than in college.
We talked about it, about Jonathan Taylor's fumbling. Like, you're going to get hit a whole lot more in the NFL earlier in play, harder in play, whatever you want to call it. The brunt of carrying the ball 26 times in the NFL is a lot different than carrying it 26 times in college. So, and Pittman has talked about just the violence of it as well. Yeah, it's different. And, these guys certainly being available, man. I mean, you'd put Taylor, Pittman, Blackman on a list of top 15, top 20 most important Colts probably moving forward here this season.
Right.
And you could argue a lot higher for a guy like Taylor.
This one comes from KJ. Why do they open the roof? Other than having has paid for it, no discernible benefit to doing so.
Well, it's that they paid for it, so they feel obligated to open it. I mean, I think that's literally what it boils down to. It's I found it just laughable that Frank Reich was talking the other day and saying how he was nervous to call the deep ball to Hilton to that part of the field because of the sun. He consciously thought about it. I'm like, when your head coach has got a game plan for the damn roof being open,
right.
why is it open? I mean, seriously, like
we paid for it, Kevin.
Right, but that's literally what it is. It's the Colts and Lucas Oil and whatever, the CIB saying, oh gosh, we got to appease the public and say from a weather standpoint, it should have been open on Sunday. It was a perfect day
beautiful
to have the roof open. But when it's impacting your team like that, that's no home field advantage. And I don't know if I can't say I remember like the Lucas Oil dynamics, but someone's told me like they screwed up what side the benches were on.
Okay.
Like the home field's much more in the sun, or
Gotcha.
the home sideline's much more in the sun than the visiting sideline. It is, who knows? It'll be 4:00 this Sunday, so I don't think that will. Hopefully, that won't impact it. But I mean, I love Lucas Oil. I love the look of it. I love the window. I think that's cool and all that. But yeah, part of me is just like, keep the dome, get the atmosphere going, and
especially when you're not going to have that many fans in there to make noise. That noise is just escaping
just
through.
Gone. And I mean, the RCA Dome, obviously one of the loudest venues around. So yeah, that's they literally opened the roof to optics. Seriously.
Dan wants to know, do you think Rivers struggles with touch passes? It seems that there have been times when a little finesse was in order, but Rivers threw it way too hard.
One last thing. I know Manning and Vinatieri, they never wanted that roof open. They never wanted it. And if they had it their way, it wouldn't. That's why the roof was open when Peyton came back here. It was, 40-degree night in October? They're like, open the damn thing. We're trying to win. And it was smart. Okay, what's he saying? Finesse?
Does Rivers have is he struggling with touch passes? He seems like there's sometimes a finesse pass could have been thrown, but he threw it a little bit too hard.
Really? I haven't noticed that. That sounds more like a Jacoby thing, okay, he's got 98 mile per hour, but can he paint it 88 when we need to and things like that? I haven't noticed that. I mean, Rivers has been nearly 80% in both of his games, and he's had at least 3 drops from Hilton, and I'm sure there's been I don't.
I remember there being an out route, and I can't remember who ran it, that the ball was well past him, way in front of him. I want to say it was Pittman.
Well, see, I think that was the miscommunication stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what
it is.
I don't know if that's necessarily, I think of finesse timing, I think of you aren't leading guys coming out of the backfield, or you're struggling just making the easy throw, and I haven't seen that from him really at all.
This is from Colts Group Therapy. You pushed to draft a quarterback this past April. I was one of the same that had the same mindset. I know it's only one game, but watching someone like Herbert yesterday, or Sunday, and then watching our quarterback really makes me question the strategy this past April of not moving up to take a quarterback. Thoughts?
Michael asked a similar question. I forgot to throw that in there. What's the date? September 23rd. It's early, man. I can't. Justin Herbert, nice debut, but I'm not going to sit here and say, stand on the table what a horrific decision the Colts made. As Colts Group Therapy states, I definitely pushed for a quarterback to be taken, and I stand by that, really, because I think the future of that position means so much to a franchise. That's really where I stand by it. Again, I don't think Rivers has been as bad as this indicates, and I'll touch on that a little bit more. But, inevitably, Chris, we will look back on this 2020 draft and say, you had the 13th overall pick. Was that a missed opportunity to move up with a more, shall we say, reasonable trade package? 13-5 is a lot different than 22-3 or whatever the Colts are going to be drafting next April. Yeah. So I guess that's where you have some pause of, was that the wisest decision of, because it's something when you trade up, and this is where, Houston and Kansas City obviously waited till the last minute to move up to get their respective quarterbacks in that 2017 draft. Mm-hmm. That's where you got to make sure that it's not like you can do what the Jets did in March of 2018 when they traded up with the Colts. They moved up to 3. Well, they know there's just 2 spots ahead of them, and they were content with, if Baker goes there and Darnold goes there, we're content with Josh Allen or Josh Rote. Like, they knew what was going to be there at 3. You've got to move all the way up. Like, you can't get to 7 and hope the right guy is going to be there unless you do it exactly on draft night when the first 6 spots are up there. So I guess that's where I have a little bit of, when you do make this trade up, and I say when because I think that's how it's got to be looked at moving forward, boy, you can't screw it up and, get to 7 and all of a sudden someone is there at 6 and takes your guy, and all of a sudden you're sitting there and you're plan C. at the 7th overall pick, if that makes sense. I also feel like what Ballard looked at, clearly he didn't love enough of those quarterbacks to sit there at 13, trade up, whatever. He felt like DeForest Buckner was that important. And I think he looked at this draft as another year to build my overall depth. And I can kind of see that. I mean, certainly, like, when you trade up next year, if you do that, yes, you are missing out on the ability to add depth at corner and tackle and wideout, and we'll always nitpick certain positions that need improvement on this football team. But you're in a better spot than maybe you would have been. Like, let's say if you traded up from 13 to 4 this year, and you would have given up, I don't know, the 34th overall pick, and let's say your 3rd rounder. I'm just making up a trade off the top of my head. So that means you don't have DeForest Buckner, you don't have Michael Pittman, and you don't have Julian Blackmon. Theoretically. Do you feel as good about your overall roster? Because I feel like quarterbacks, when we look at like the 2018 draft, I mean, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, they walked into the best situations of Rosen, Mayfield, Darnold, and they've had the best success. Mm-hmm. So I think Ballard might look at it a little bit that way of like, if you don't give your rookie quarterback enough around you, oh shit, I mean, that could be a recipe for disaster, and the guy might, be mentally shot by his, second season, something like that.
You're seeing it with Darnold, who we're going to play this weekend.
Right. And, Baker in a couple weeks. I mean, certainly, there are classic examples of it here right now in the NFL. So I see where Ballard, his kind of line of thinking there, but obviously the ability to move up from 13 to 4, like I said, is a lot different than moving up from 25 to 4 or something like that.
This one comes from Garrett. Do you think there's actually a better chance Hooker resigns with the Colts now? Curious what the market will be for him. Might be better for him to do a 1-year prove-it season than he can play behind Blackmon or in situational packages.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was very minimal percentage that Hooker was going to be re-signed before the injury, so I guess maybe it's increased slightly, but I don't think it's like a Marlon Mack where, running backs are kind of different. You're willing to take a 1-year flyer on a very cheap guy that's like, oh, yeah, maybe he'll be healthy, and you always need a lot of running backs. Your safety depth is a little bit better than what you have. I might also go back to what I said on Monday. Does Hooker want to play in this scheme again?
Yeah.
I don't think he feels deep down that he was utilized in the best manner here during his time in Indianapolis. And I also feel like when you look at Marlon Mack and Malik Hooker in the 3-year kind of arcs of their career, very different. So I think you're factoring that as well. So, yeah, maybe slightly more increased just because his market won't be as attractive, but still, it's this was not as happy of a marriage as I think Marlon Mack and the Colts are.
Mr. Y and Zachary have a similar question regarding Jordan Wilkins. Why isn't he in the rotation more? They feel like he constantly has solid rushing average.
It's a popular question that we get a lot. I think it's hard to use a 4th running back. And, when you're healthy there, Mack, Taylor, Hines, and then Wilkins. He had a couple fumbles as a rookie that I think have kind of, stayed with the staff a little bit. There's some more trustworthy guys. And, he battled an injury in camp last year. I just think the Colts were pretty healthy at running back. I don't think Hines is, unless I'm missing one, I don't think Hines has missed a game in the NFL.
I don't feel like he has.
And obviously Mack was pretty durable for the vast majority of last season. So I think it's almost too many cooks in the kitchen at running back. Do you feel like Mack's getting into a great rhythm? I think that's kind of part of it. And like Wilkins' numbers have been good, but it's probably fair to say a decent amount of his carries have come in the 4th quarter when the game is no longer really in doubt. But I still think you sprinkle him in a little bit moving forward. I don't think Taylor 26 carries should be the norm. I think it's get Wilkins involved, obviously get Hines more involved. And for all the fantasy experts out there that have Hines in their team, they're asking me Monday, I mean, he's going to be involved more. That was the anomaly. Like, I think he will be a factor. Vikings game plan was just vastly different than anything you tried really week 1.
Yep. This one's from Daniel. After the first 2 weeks and hopefully this week, the Jets are looking like the worst team in the league. What are your thoughts on them moving on from Darnold if they were to get a top pick? He feels like they haven't treated him right in New York and would be a good target for the Colts considering they more than likely won't be picking in the top 10 of next year's draft.
Let's start here. The Jets suck. They suck. I mean, look at their roster. It is a pathetic-looking roster. There are 6 starters on injured reserve, too. I mean, God bless him, Frank Gore is their starting running back. I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
Frank, that's 3 yards per carry every time. I mean, he's a first-ballot Hall of Famer in my mind, and we can save that for a summer debate. But still, it's there's just, outside of a Mekhi Beckham and a Quinnen Williams, there is just, it's a sorry-looking roster right now. And yeah, I mean, if you get the first overall pick, you have to take Lawrence. It's just a no-brainer. You need to inject some life into your franchise, and clearly, I don't think Darnold has offered you that, or, again, environment plays into it, all those things. I don't know. It's interesting. Really interesting thought Daniel has. I mean, you got to be damn sold on Darnold. And obviously, we don't know the 2018 draft because you had luck. So you never were really evaluating those quarterbacks truly there. Why I say you have to be sold on it, Sam Darnold will be a 4th year in the NFL next year. Yeah, 2018, 2019, 20. Yeah. That's the end of his rookie contract. I mean, he's got the 5th-year option, but you got to give him a second contract pretty soon. So, yeah, I don't
he's got his boy Pittman.
Yeah, that is a good point. But still, I don't hate Darnold. I don't think it's not Josh Rosen. I think Darnold is, has nice moments. And again, I don't think he's in a great environment by any means, but still, I don't love that. You worry about scar tissue, I think, with guys and other quarterbacks that have been in different systems and different environments. And are they gun shy now? Are they hesitant to do things? Have they created bad habits? Just that stuff. So I'd probably rather mold a rookie quarterback, which, again, I know with Daniel, you aren't going to be picking in the top 10 of next year's draft. You're going to have to move up. I can acknowledge that, but I'd be willing to do that.
Mitchell has a 2-parter for us. First one, is he overthinking that Doolin is returning kickoffs well to give better field position?
Yeah. I'm kind of confused, I guess is what he's asking. Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. You're returning kicks to create field position. And the Colts have been successful in that. There's some nice hidden yardage there.
Number 2, if Parris Campbell is out for longer than 3 to 4 weeks, is it crazy to trade something for Odell since Cleveland said they were open to offers?
Yeah, it is crazy. You can't have Odell in your locker room. I'm sorry. It's just not going to work out. And I fully expect Parris Campbell to miss a lot more than 3 to 4 weeks. I was talking to a buddy of mine who's an orthopedic surgeon for a different professional sports team, and pretty much said PCL involvement, 2 to 3 months at best.
Okay. That
sort of thing. And again, who knows how severe it was with Campbell, but I'm expecting this to be a much more than a 3-week on the IR list this year and coming back.
Another tight end question. This one comes from David. He knows they really love Mo after the game. How do they get all 3 tight ends who they've seemed to have been in love with significant playing time? Are they going to be seeing a lot more heavy sets? That would also help our wide receiver issues at the moment.
Let me touch one more thing on Mitchell about Odell Beckham there. I just think you don't bring that guy in your locker room midseason. You're going to have inevitable chemistry issues that are going to arise, and we've seen how Odell Beckham reacts to that.
True.
And I just don't think you do that. It's unbelievable talent, yeah, but in-season trades and expecting the chemistry to be great, especially for a guy that, we talk about deep balls and, where's Rivers at? Although he threw a great one on Monday or on Sunday, it's just kind of so I don't. All right, what's David saying? How do they get all 3 tight ends involved?
Yes, and are they going to be seeing a lot more heavier sets? He feels like that would help our wide receiver issues at the moment. Yeah,
I think that's a really good point, David. I also think we're probably still a week or 2 away from this. Jack Doyle didn't practice today. Trey Burton's definitely out on Sunday. We're probably into October before this is really oh my gosh, do you have too many tight ends? And the thing that has also kind of hurt Mo Alley a little bit is he's been banged up at times in his career. I think that's kind of stunted him a little bit as well. But I definitely want to see different 2 tight end personnel, and Frank Reich has done that. There's, again, games where Mo Alley Cox was out-snapping Eric Ebron, back even in 2018 when Ebron was having that great season. So I think you can get really creative in short yardage. You put Alley Cox, Burton, Doyle on the field on a 3rd and 2 or a 4th and 1 or something like that. That defense can't sell out on the run. And I feel like just a great play the Colts use so often is, and they try to use it on the Jacoby play week 1, is the quick little hitter to Doyle. I think they used it again on the goal line, the little quick hitter to Zach Pascal for the touchdown. Mm-hmm. They use that so often. I think that's a play that you can go to. So I'm really excited to see Burton. When you talk about slot guys that could fill in the slot, I think Burton could be that.
Jay wants to know, if you were to redo the draft of 2018, where do you think Leonard and Nelson would go?
2018 draft?
Yep.
So that was quarterback heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have it up? Draft up?
I do.
Quickly run through the top 10.
Baker, Saquon Barkley, Sam Darnold. The Browns took Denzel Ward. Broncos, Bradley Chubb. We got Quentin Nelson. Bills, Josh Allen. Roquan Smith for the Bears. And Mike McGlinchey, San Francisco 49ers. And then rounding it out, top 10, Josh Rosen to the Cardinals.
Well, I'd say Lamar Jackson goes 1. He was in that draft, obviously. I don't think Baltimore traded back into round 1.
They did. He was the last pick of that first round. And I'm guessing we're redrafting this, assuming the teams still want to fill those positions that they went after.
Yeah, I guess that would be. I don't know if I can study it that much.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, that's probably right. I would say if I'm taking the best player, and position obviously being factored in, Lamar would go 1. Mm-hmm. 2 would be probably Josh Allen. Honestly,
yeah.
I would say 3 is either Nelson or Minkah Fitzpatrick was in that draft,
yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he was.
Probably Leonard goes next, then Barkley. I don't know. I'm taking into consideration running backs and how I'd never take a running back in the top 5. Mike McGlinchey. Who would probably go top, I don't know if top 10, but he'd probably go top 15. It's Braden Smith. You talk about quality offensive tackle. You would love that in a top 15 pick. So, I don't know. People hate guards. People hate linebackers, so it's hard to project how high Nelson and Leonard would go, but you can't tell me outside of quarterback. Outside of Minkah Fitzpatrick, find me 2 other players in the draft that have made an impact in the NFL like those 2 have at their position. So, yeah, I'd probably say both of them go top 5.
This one comes from Jason. Hale Hinches was in town for a tryout this week. Or last week, the dude was a stud player during the practice squad. Why haven't we picked him up on the practice squad yet?
They have. This question obviously was sent in before. Hale Hinches is on the practice squad, and we'll see. Right now, your 3 tight ends on the active roster: Malik Cox, Noah Tungiai, who actually played a lot on Sunday, and then Farrard Green, their undrafted free agent from Mississippi State. So yeah, maybe Hale gets promoted, but clearly they like the other undrafted free agents, want to give them a chance.
Mm-hmm.
I think something you have to remember about all, practice squad debates and who should they sign and bringing back your own. And sometimes it's just like, I want to see a fresh body. I know who that guy is. I know where his ceiling is. Do we think that guy has a higher ceiling? Let's bring him in for a week and see what can happen.
From Vince, what different variations of the 4-3 would you like to see more? He knows that we hear Tampa 2 and the bend but don't break, but a lot of teams play the 4-3 and aren't thought of that way.
Yeah, it's a good question, Vince. I've stressed kind of the pre-snap disguising that I want to see. Maybe the structure doesn't necessarily look like basic 4-3 and alignment is here and it's the same gaps and like the quarterback just comes to the line of scrimmage and knows exactly where Buckner and Leonard and Walker and Houston and everyone's going to be snap in, snap out. Matt Eberflus brings up the rerouting of wideouts as like a big thing or pass catchers that he really wants to do. So when I hear that, I'm thinking, okay, more coverage-based stuff underneath. You hear that no cover zone. Eberflus mentioned that phrase one time, and I'm just like, what? No cover zone? Like, it's the NFL. Like, yeah, I'm going to cover every inch of the field if I can. So, start that level earlier. Teams that don't have great offensive lines, they want to get that ball out rapidly quick.
Yes.
So I don't want that first level to be easy. So again, it doesn't have to be press man all across, but a little bump, and then you settle right there into your zone, and now you've created a little bit of blurred vision up there. So I think that's some of the kind of coverage principles, beliefs that you can structurally still be a 4-3, but can your alignment look different? Can your disguising look different? And can some of the first level coverage be different as well?
I'm going to guess on this Twitter name, but I believe 11 bout. Question is, Taylor and Malik Cox look like beasts. Why do you think they did not get more playing time before?
Well, Jonathan Taylor was a rookie, so I don't know what more you wanted. He touched it, I think, 15 times in the opener. That's pretty good for a rookie. Taylor had the most carries in week 2 of any NFL rookie since, I think, 2016.
Wow.
I mean, you don't see a rookie running back. You don't see any running back really carry it 26 times, let alone a rookie.
Yeah.
And to get back to what I was saying about Mo earlier, a little bit of injuries, a little bit of development. This guy didn't play football. He hadn't played football since his freshman year of high school. Got to develop a little bit. So I think route running, he was behind some pretty good tight ends. How trustworthy can you be? I think that's what kind of played into a little bit of that.
Question from Daniel. With Campbell out for the foreseeable future, he wonders if we'll see the offense transition into a more run-heavy set with 2 tight ends. They can be efficient this way, but on paper, we would be similar to the Titans. Strong D, ground game, and decent special teams. It can win games, but may not be the exciting football we plan on watching heading into this season.
Daniel, it's an interesting thought. I think what I like about the Titans is they still have the ability to hit on some big plays in the passing game. A.J. Brown was a pretty damn good weapon for him last season. I think of the big pass to Raymond they hit here on a 3rd and 10 to really seal that game, which, more or less ended the Colts' 2019 season. So I want to still see them try out other personnel groupings. I don't want to see them so dominant within their game plan of like, we're going to run it, we're going to run it, we're going to run it. Like, when you start tipping your hand like that, in the NFL, it's easier, in my opinion, to take away the run than it is the pass. I can load up a box. I can load it up, and it's just kind of mano-a-mano. The pass, I think it's just a lot more different paths you can take, different routes, obviously, tight ends and running backs out of the backfield, and big body wideouts, and, kind of more the jitterbug wideouts and all of that. So you have to try to be diverse. Is the Colts' core philosophy the run game? Without a doubt. And you don't want to lose sight of that. But over the course of a 16-game season, and when you get in the postseason, you've got to be able to win games multiple. And so that's why I do want to see them, continue to try other things, because you're going to have to. And you're going to have to win shootouts. Baltimore and Kansas City, are they just going to score a bunch week in and week out? How much keep away can you play? Because, I go back to that playoff loss in Kansas City 2 years ago. You had the ideal blueprint, it seemed like. The stout run team that just dominated the Texans and the best run defense in the NFL in the wild card. And now you're going to Arrowhead, where they're a terrible run defense team. You want to play keep away. You want to probably limit Patrick Mahomes in those possessions. And you get totally stuffed on the ground. So, that's where I get back to being able to beat teams multiple ways.
So this one's from Nathan. With how well Cox played on Sunday, do you think that he can beat out Burton for the tight end 2 spot when he comes back, or when Burton comes back, will he go to tight end 3?
Yeah, I don't want to get too caught up in the depth chart. Like I said earlier, Alec Cox outsnapped Ebron, and I don't think anyone knew that a couple years ago. They just saw Ebron score a touchdown, and they were happy fantasy-wise. So, Burton offers a pretty niche role. Like, I was asking Nick Sirianni earlier in the week, I felt like Malik Cox's route tree on Sunday, that's pretty vertical.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the screen, but, I don't see Jack Doyle running too many routes that deep in the field. I mean, honestly, it's kind of Eric Ebron routes that he was running vertical. But still, Burton is probably more of like your intermediate guy, and 6'2", 230, and just offers a different skill set. So I think Frank will use those guys very interchanging wise. And maybe Jack Doyle's not playing 100% of the snaps or 95% of the snaps like you used to. I don't know. Maybe that's a wrinkle that you throw in there as well. So, I don't think he's just going to be like, this is a team that only uses 2 tight ends, and if you're the tight end 3, you don't play. That's not Frank Reich.
Kevin Corey hopes things are well with you and the family.
Appreciate that, Corey. Same to you. Corey Zadonis, great golfer. Won an individual state title. I don't know if that's Corey. One of my favorite teammates, one of my favorite humans of all time, Corey Zadonis.
Well done. Whose performance this weekend shocked you, whether it be good or for bad reasons?
Well, let's start with the good. We've talked about him a lot. How about Blackman? I mean, wow. Playing is enough, let alone making impact. I thought Taylor Stallworth, the other guy we've mentioned, a few times, a couple big run stops early in the game. Those were guys that I thought Mark Glowinski played a little better. That was needed. Bad, probably Hilton. The Sun, I go back and watch that play, and I'm just like, that's awful. But, that ball was right there. He literally.
Bread basket.
Yeah, he caught it. It was there, and then dropped it. Which I know that sounds a lot simpler than, it's a lot harder than I just made it sound. But, yeah, those are some of the guys that stood out, and maybe not so bad. Who else bad? Malik Cox bounces back from the drop. He's probably in the good category. He probably outweighed that by the end. Yeah, I don't think of anybody else that I'd put in the bad category.
Yeah, it was mostly good.
It was a really good performance. Blankenship, certainly good.
Question from Creighton. Which position do you see the biggest need coming into this offseason outside of quarterback, via draft or free agency?
Yeah, cornerback for sure. Rhodes 1-year deal, Carey 1-year deal, both 30 years old. Obviously, Marvell Tell's opt-out situation. Wideout, and this probably goes back to the Campbell injury. That's
right.
Yeah, boy. And has Wideout been on this list every freaking year? Seriously. Yeah. Always. Offensive tackle depth. Yeah.
From Daniel, Colts had a nice showing overall, but their lack of being able to score in the red zone, which keeps the game closer than it should be, is concerning. Nice to get a first win, hopefully one of many more to come.
Yeah, Daniel, I guess we kind of hit on this earlier, so I won't touch on it too much now. But, again, I trust Reich, but I am, Chris, getting into the area of, no Burton, no Campbell. Those are two guys I'd love to see in the red zone. And the thing about Campbell, too, is just he's such a guy that doesn't have to touch the ball to impact things. Because, again, when he's doing the jet sweep stuff or he's lined up in the backfield and then you motion him out or you run a crosser with him, when a DB sees 15, he's going to react to that differently when a DB sees 10 of Reese Fountain or 14 of Zach Pascal. That dude strikes more fear than a lot of other guys. And I just think he can open up other avenues of, all right, maybe Campbell isn't purely touching the ball, but he's at least making a defense think pre-snap of, where is he again? And do we have enough in that area in case he does touch the ball to be able to stop him? So that's where I'm a little worried.
Well, we've had a question about Darnold. We've had a question about Colts coming or QBs coming up in the draft. Ryan has a question looking into the future. If Dak is available after the season, should the Colts sign him to a long-term deal?
No. We touched on this on an earlier podcast, so check that out. We definitely did. Check out a summer pod. I think it was in the title, if I'm not mistaken. So Check that out, Ryan. We hit on this. Basically, it's nothing. I think Dak's a fine quarterback, but it's just the financials.
Yeah.
Where you get into it, you really need your next starting quarterback to be on a rookie deal.
This one's from David. Do you think Rivers looks for the check down a bit too often? It leads to easy completions and builds over time, but the intermediate routes haven't really developed yet. Maybe 1 to 3 deep balls. Do you think they'll open up over time, or is this the passing offense we will expect for the rest of 2020?
Well, like I said earlier, you're going to have to hit on some chunks, but I am really pleased with 2 key numbers of Phillip Rivers so far. Rivers, 78% week 1. Yards per attempt was 7.9. Really good.
Mm-hmm.
Week 2, 76% completion percentage. Pretty good. 8.5 was the yards per attempt number. That is accuracy and enough big play substance that, and I hate to bring it up, but you just do because it was last year that Jacoby never sniffed. That is a reason why the Colts made this upgrade. It's crazy. When I looked at those numbers, I'm like, man, that is efficiency and maintaining enough of a big play. Are the Colts hitting on the 40-yard chunk right now? No. But to me, that yards per attempt number is more impressive because that means they're consistently hitting on enough of the 13, 17, 19-yard sort of completion that can offset, the little 3-yard dump to a running back to stay ahead of the chains. So I was thinking, all right, Rivers through 2 games, that completion percentage number and that yards per attempt number, how many times do you think Andrew Luck did that in his career? Andrew Luck played 86 career games.
Okay.
And again, these aren't eye-popping games from Rivers so far. Like, I don't think we'd say these are just incredible Phillip Rivers games so far. But basically, I just want Colts fans to be reminded of, where you're at the quarterback position. What do you think? How many of 86?
Out of 86, I would hope it's north of 50. But knowing my guess is that's going to be way off.
Yeah, it is. Way off. 5. 5 games.
Wow.
Now, the yards per attempt number was always pretty high with Luck.
Jeez.
And now, to be fair, he didn't play in a Frank Reich offense very often. I think 2 of the 5 occurred with Reich. But it's the accuracy. And these metrics, Frank and Nick talk about it a lot. If you can get to the 7.5 yards per attempt and borderline 8 on a routine basis, that's pretty good quarterback play. Well, he's giving you 7.9 and 8.5, and you don't have the skewed 50-yarder to Hilton on Sunday that can kind of make that look a little bit not as accurate as it is. So, if I'm grading Phillip Rivers after 2 games, I'm giving him probably a solid B. I know some people would sit here and be like, no, he threw those 2 picks week 1. That's inexcusable. That cannot happen. Like, he sucks. That's literally what I felt like my timeline is like. And I'm like, wait. He's an upgrade over what you had last year. Has he been a top 5 quarterback through 2 weeks? No. He's getting the ball out quick, 3rd fastest in the NFL right now, and getting the ball out quick. And he's putting up great accuracy and really good yards per attempt number. So I just think we got to make sure that we acknowledge you've gotten good quarterback play so far. It's not been Hall of Fame good, but it's an upgrade. And on a 1-year deal through 2 weeks, I think you'd be pretty content with what you've gotten so far.
And I would think that those numbers that you just gave directly correlate with how much time of possession we've been able to control the first 2 weeks.
How many times have you punted?
Yeah.
Think about it. You haven't ran out Rigo too often. That's spot on. You've stayed ahead of the chains. There are elements to this offense you want to see more out of. We've talked about the red zone. Yeah, I'd like that play action. I'd like Hilton to catch it, honestly. Mm-hmm. And you'd probably be pretty happy with what you got. But I just want to make sure we acknowledge the Colts have gotten better than decent quarterback play so far.
Well, we'll stay with Rivers on the Forge and Blues question. With Rivers' early interception struggles and the reports of how good Eason has looked and the time they're putting in with him, if you had to guess right now, is Rivers back next year or is it Eason's time to shine?
I swear we didn't put these questions back-to-back on purpose. It's just, Eason threw 30 balls in camp. I said it even back during the summer, Chris. Phillip Rivers got to fall pretty hard on his face for this not to be a 2-year thing. Like, that's because what are you seeing from Eason that is ever going to make you say, man, did you see him run the scout team today? Oh, he looked great. Like, you can't say that and all of a sudden give him the keys to be your starting quarterback for the franchise. Phillip Rivers, I'd be, unless he just doesn't love playing the game of football anymore and wants to move, which I don't know. Or they got a stud transfer at the Alabama high school and he wants to coach that guy. I don't know. I fully expect Phillip Rivers to be the quarterback.
All right, well, we feel sorry for you, Jordan. He wants some advice on his fantasy football team that he drafted Marlon Mack, Parris Campbell, Kenny Galladay, George Kittle, and A.J. Brown.
Holy.
Is he just the injury curse of the year?
Gosh, I don't believe in curses, but for those of you that do, they might say, I don't want to be within 100 miles of Jordan. Jordan, if you live with anybody, I'd lock my door every night. I think I know a decent amount about the NFL, but man, I'm last place in our listener fantasy league, and Chris, I suck. What have you done? Did you win?
I'm pretty sure I'm 0 for 2 as well. Both of mine were close, but
dude, I just got yeah. I'm the Jets. I am the cast-offs. I'm the Jets. Yeah. That is, boy, are there enough IR spots to put all those guys on
kidding.
it? I mean, hell, just drop them. Drop some of them at least.
This is from Stan. What's more likely, Mo becomes tight end 1 or Pittman becomes wide receiver 1?
Stan, why don't you ask more questions? I love this. More likely. Give it to me again.
Mo Alley Cox becomes the team's tight end number 1 or Pittman becomes the team's wide receiver number 1?
Well, I'll throw this. Is Stan talking this year or down the road? I think down the road, Mo Alley Cox. Slightly. I mean, God, Pittman. This year, I mean, you might argue Michael Pittman's one T.Y. Hilton injury away from being the number 1 wideout.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I still think Pittman's got a good shot to be number 1 receiver as well. But if I'm really kind of let's say Campbell makes a full recovery and looks like the Campbell we saw week 1 and stays healthy, and you re-sign Hilton for 2 years, it might be a little bit of time for Pittman. Mo Alley Cox, yeah, I mean, Burton's on a 1-year deal. Doyle's got, 2 years left? So, yeah, I think both can be. And honestly, how important would it be for this franchise if both of them achieve that?
Yes.
Mo Alley just turned 27.
Yeah, a lot of good years left.
Mm-hmm. Especially that position.
Yeah. All right, Kevin, the number of runs on Sunday bothered Felipe a little bit. Do you think that's mostly because we were playing from a lead or that Reich wants to shift back to last year's model?
Felipe, man, you're bothered by a double-digit win. I'm sorry. I mean, the Colts were in full control. They knew Minnesota's biggest weakness. They were going to attack it, and they didn't want to put too much on the plate of Phillip Rivers. And I'd be curious, how much did the Campbell injury, impact things? You probably had a lot of stuff in the game plan for him specifically that you couldn't get back into. People watch Ashton Dulin take a jet sweep, and they're like, he can be the next Campbell. I mean, yeah. Guy's caught, 2 balls in the NFL? So, bothered is not the word I would use. Could you have thrown in a few more catches, pass plays, whatever? Sure. But you move the ball all day long. You got yourself into constant scoring position. I'm okay. Finish off a few more drives, score 34 points, and it's a damn good day in the NFL. And also, I mean, look at the Viking safeties. Best safety duo in the league?
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
Up there.
So, I mean, throwing away from those guys probably makes sense.
All right, 3 more Twitter questions before we get into takeaways and the predictions for this weekend's game. This one from Mr. Fantastic. What do you think the future of Parris Campbell and Hooker are? They seem to catch the injury bug every season.
Yeah, I've mentioned Hooker. I think it's probably over. Campbell, Chris, is he fragile? He never got hurt at Ohio State. Never did. And now here it's weird. It's the soft tissue of a hamstring in training camp. Then it's hernia, I believe it was, that he kind of played through, I think, early on in his rookie season. Then he breaks a hand, and then he breaks a foot and gets in a car crash. I mean, some of this stuff is just fluker than fluke, and others it's kind of then you see the Harrison Smith hit on Sunday, and I'm like, that hit probably would have hurt a lot of people in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know, man. It certainly impacts your confidence, though. It has to. You can't look at Parris Campbell and have this abundance of confidence and say, we're not going to give receiver as much attention this offseason. You just can't. You can't say that. So, obviously, two more years left on his rookie deal. It's not like he's going anywhere, and you want to see him continue to rehab and grow and all that. But, yeah, I think it improves the chances of T.Y. Hilton coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think receiver is a need in the offseason. Is it as big of a need as last year? Probably not, but I think it's still a need, man.
Yeah. This one comes from Josh. It always seemed that the stubborn adherence to the cover 2 was personnel-based. Does this win show that the Colts have a secondary that can play a different style from what they've played the past few years? If so, why do we keep going back after big successes like against Kansas City?
Josh, preach, preach, preach. That's probably been my biggest issue is there's been flashes. There's been moments against these unbelievable offense like Kansas City, even though they were missing, Tyreek Hill in that game. It's they've shown they can play a different style and have success. So when you get into ruts, like we talked about on Monday's podcast, go back to that. Try something different. People say it's the simplest defense in the NFL that you game plan for. It's like, how do you be more complex? Of just showing on tape on a more routine basis, we can do that. Now you've got a game plan for us a little bit more than we have to game plan for you. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Look at what you're playing in November. Look at what you're playing in the second half of the season right now. Right now, I think it's this, Chris. The teams you play between now and when you start with Baltimore,
yep,
those teams are combined 4-10 on the season, and that includes the 2-0 Bears. So 4-10. So some shitty football teams you're playing those first 7 games. The back half of the schedule, I want to say the record is, I think it's 13-5.
It's
those opponents
be up there, yeah. Because a team like the Raiders, you didn't know what to expect. They've gotten off to a good start.
You got undefeated teams. The Titans twice, Raiders 2-0, Steelers 2-0, Packers 2-0, Ravens 2-0. 5 of those 5 losses, 4 of them are the Texans. And they've played, the 2 best teams in the AFC. So, again, what I'm getting at is you're going to play some pretty good offenses. Do you have different game plans you can go to and trust? So, Josh, I couldn't agree with that more. It is stubbornness to me, which I know is kind of a harsh word to use, but it's a big reason why Nate McMillan got fired. You've done it well. So try it again and not wait till all hell breaks loose before you go back to it.
Last short question of this podcast comes from Michael, and we're going to stick here with the defense. With arguably the worst team in the league coming in with the Jets, what are the best ways the Colts can contain Darnold to not give him the confidence to get the upset against us?
The Jets are horrid. Like I said, he was 80%. Darnold had a career high 80% completion percentage against you 2 years ago. It's just, I think it's keep him in the pocket. I think he made it great. That touchdown he threw last week was unbelievable.
On the run.
Oh, yeah. Hogan or Barrios, I forget who he threw it to, but boy, that was a hell of a play. Yeah, I just keep him confined. If you keep him confined and disrupt some of that timing, I really am not too worked up about it. Denzel Mims, IR.
Mm-hmm.
We've Joey and I definitely talked about him on Draft Podcast. Brashard Perriman going to be out. They signed him when Robbie Anderson left. And Jameson Crowder, who Adam Gase has called the best player on their football team. Him coming out of the slot, he's banged up as well. So, and they got Dante Moncrief from the practice squad. Ross Travis in the practice squad. It's absurd, man. Yeah, you just don't let Darnold make some off-script plays. I really think that's the only way that you get beat.
All right, that wraps up Twitter questions.
Cool.
Okay, Kevin, what are your 3 keys that the Colts have to have this week to get a victory?
Yeah, double-digit point favorite, 10-point favorite. So 3 keys, and we will take these seriously. Play to your standard. Too often, I think under Frank Reich, this team has played to their competition. Now, against Kansas City, that was really good a couple years ago. But then I think of shutout to the Jaguars 2 years ago. Lose at home to the Dolphins last year and you're a double-digit favorite. I think you got to play you've defined a standard. You've got to play to that and not to your competition. So I think that's what I want to see first and foremost, just putting a team away. You kind of did that to Minnesota, but not really. I felt like you could have, really stepped on Minnesota there. Rattling Darnold would be point number 2. Like I said, he was 80% career high against this defense, this scheme at least, back in his rookie season. They won a shootout, 42-34. Ironically enough, that was the first game this starting offensive line was together. Costanzo, Nelson, Kelly, Glowinski, Smith. So that's some silver lining there in that loss that you had when you went to 1-5. That was the Oof. That was the DEF CON. You needed Derek Anderson and the Bills to come in here and get you out of your slump. I mean, no starting running back, missing a starting center, top 3 wideouts are gone. Just rattle him with just disrupting that timing like we saw against the Vikings. And then lastly, get T.Y. going. I think it's just paramount without Campbell moving forward. I'm not worried so much about his confidence. I just think T.Y.'s got to command that attention again. And to command it, you got to be able to catch the football and produce big plays and those sorts of things to help out your offense to say, oh, we can't put 8 in the box. Like those sorts of things. So, he's got the same amount of drops as he had all last season. And, when I get T.Y. going, I probably mean red zone as well. I think that's a big area for this team to certainly work on.
Lastly, before we jump into the predictions, do we want to answer just 2 over-under questions that we got?
Yeah.
Okay, this one comes from John. Says, what's up, guys? Over-under 1.5 sacks for Buckner this weekend versus the Jets.
1.5 sacks to force Buckner. I'll go under. I'll say 1 sack. He causes another. Doesn't get credit for it, and then he doesn't play the back half of the fourth quarter.
Yep.
But they are without their starting center, Josh Andrews, former Colt. There'll be so many former Colts you're going to see.
And now this one from Jason. Over-under question, 175 yards passing, 90 yards rushing.
For the Colts?
Yes.
Oh, I would hope over on both.
I would as well.
Yeah.
Both are very low.
Yeah, I would definitely hope over on both. If it's not over on both, this game's going to be way too close. So, yeah.
Cool. Prediction for this weekend?
Yeah, I think they control it. I'm going to go 27-10. Double-digit spreads. I don't know why anyone would ever bet on those in the NFL. It just seems like a black hole, and I'm not referencing, week 1. It wasn't even double-digit spread.
And I didn't double down last week like you told me to. I could have crawled back out of that hole.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but seriously, though, I just think week 1 was a wake-up call for this team. And that's a little bit of silver lining. 1-1 is it stings because – you have put so much pressure on this early start of the season. We mentioned the schedule earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Got to get off and maintain a good start. This is the easiest game you'll play all season. Really. You look at their roster and their dysfunction. These questions Adam Gase is answering today in his presser, he's answering about guys in their defense saying they don't practice hard enough. Like, we're at week 3 and we're already having locker room issues and whatnot. So
it's a mess.
It's a mess. Don't give them hope. Take an early lead, play from ahead, 27-10 Colts.
All right,
man. That wraps up this edition of Kevin's Corner. Monday morning, we'll be back. Pretty fluid. Chicago next week, Cleveland and Cincinnati, I think the weekend after that, then a bye week. So this is the only home back-to-back stretch the Colts have until late November. So 7,500, is that right?
That's correct.
Are you going to be there?
I'm not going to be there. I was going to go. My nephew's birthday. Gotta go to that.
You gotta go to that. 4:05 kick. I'll be there. We'll be back Monday morning. Everybody have a great week, and we'll talk to you later.